Before we dive into the darkest story you've ever heard, make sure you're ready. Because once you enter Tadmor, you won't escape. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want more forbidden documentaries. Now, let's begin. The first sound was a scream. Not a loud one. A soft, broken one. It echoed through a hallway lit only by a single buzzing bulb. A guard whispered, "No one leaves Tadmor alive." And then the doors slammed. That was the moment everything changed. But how did a prison in the Syrian desert become known in U.S. case files as the most brutal torture prison in history? And why did American detectives later compare it to a nightmare built out of fear itself? To understand, we have to go back to a day when the world almost forgot Tadmor existed until it exploded into the news with a massacre so shocking it still appears in old investigation reports kept in dusty rooms from Washington, D.C. to Houston, Texas. Years earlier, far from the quiet suburbs of Ohio and the busy streets of Chicago, Tadmor Prison sat in the hot desert outside Palmyra, Syria. It didn't look big from the outside. Just long concrete walls, guard towers, and sand blowing across empty land. But inside lived a fear deeper than anything you'd hear in a homicide case or missing person report. The prisoners were mostly ordinary people, teachers, teenagers, shopkeepers, taken because someone accused them of speaking against the government. No trial, no lawyer, no evidence, just disappearance. And the stories that leaked out, they never sounded real. Not even to U.S. reporters or analysts in places like Los Angeles or Atlanta. People said the halls felt alive, like the walls could hear your heartbeat. Guards didn't walk. They stalked like shadows. Every footstep meant danger. Every whisper meant someone else had vanished. One prisoner, an American researcher named Daniel Brooks, ended up trapped inside while studying Middle Eastern history. He had flown from Denver to Damascus. He wanted to learn about old civilizations near Palmyra. But one question asked at the wrong checkpoint changed everything. Soldiers searched his backpack. They found notes about military dates, old maps, and political timelines for his college project. They didn't understand it. They thought he was a spy. Daniel disappeared into Tadmor without a single report filed in the U.S. Embassy. At first, Daniel thought he'd be questioned and released. But the deeper he was dragged inside, the darker the air felt. The halls stretched forever. The smell of dust and metal filled his nose. Somewhere far away, someone begged for mercy. A guard laughed. Daniel swallowed hard. "Stay quiet," a prisoner whispered as they passed. "Silence keeps you alive." Days turned into a blur. Daniel learned the rules quickly. Don't speak unless ordered. Don't react to the screams. Don't look a guard in the eyes. Every night, he tried to remember Colorado and the cold air outside his old school. He pictured American detectives and FBI case files stacked high, trying to locate missing citizens abroad. He imagined his mom calling every office from New York to California, hoping someone knew where her son vanished. But Tadmor swallowed people whole. It erased them. Then came the morning of the event survivors still call the day the sun refused to rise. The air was too quiet. No guards shouting. No chains clattering. Even the wind outside felt frozen. Daniel felt it in his bones. Something terrible was coming. The doors at the end of the hall burst open. Soldiers rushed in, boots pounding like thunder. Their faces were hard and cold. They carried weapons as if heading into a war zone, not a prison. One officer barked orders Daniel couldn't understand. Prisoners were forced to stand in rows. Daniel's heart hammered. He could feel the fear spreading through everyone, like electricity in the air. A guard shouted, "Retaliation." Another yelled, "For the attack on the president." The prisoners panicked. Some fell to their knees. Others whispered prayers. Daniel couldn't move. He felt like his legs had turned to stone. Then the first shot rang out, sharp, cracking through the silence like lightning. A prisoner dropped. Another shot. Then another. The screams began. And that was only the beginning, because what happened next would become known around the world as the Tadmor Massacre of 1980, one of the most horrifying mass executions ever recorded. The soldiers raised their rifles again, aiming at the next row. and Daniel was standing in it. The rifles rose higher, pointing straight at Daniel's row. The soldiers' hands were steady, like they'd done this 1,000 times. The air felt thick, almost solid, and Daniel couldn't breathe. He kept thinking of his home in Denver, his mom, his sister Emily, who lived in New York, and all the detectives in the U.S. who would someday search for him in missing person case files, never imagining he was standing in front of a firing squad in a desert prison half a world away. A soldier shouted a command. Daniel closed his eyes. The rifles clicked as fingers tightened on the triggers. And then another officer burst through the doorway and yelled, "Stop." Orders changed. The soldiers froze. Everyone held their breath. The officer waved angrily. "Not this row. Not yet." The rifles lowered. Daniel's legs almost gave out. "Move them," the officer barked. Guards shoved the prisoners backward, pushing them toward another hallway. Daniel stumbled into the darkness, shaken, confused, unable to understand why he had been spared even for a moment. The calm after that terror felt unreal, almost dreamlike. They were pushed into a new cell block, darker and colder. The metal doors slammed shut. The screams from the massacre faded behind thick concrete. Daniel sank against the wall, shaking uncontrollably. Prisoners whispered around him. Some cried softly. One older man, an engineer from Boston arrested on a business trip, whispered, "They won't stop." This was only the start. Someone else murmured, "They think we're enemies, but we're just people who were in the wrong place." The calm didn't last long. In Tadmor, calm never meant safety. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time was strange inside the prison. A guard walked slowly down the hall, boots echoing. Tap, tap, tap. Each tap felt like a warning. He stopped outside Daniel's cell. "You. Come." The cell door screeched open. Daniel's stomach twisted. He followed, stepping carefully, afraid of doing anything wrong. The guard led him to an interrogation room. A single chair, a single light bulb, a table holding old papers and a rusted metal file. Daniel sat. The guard stared at him with cold, empty eyes. "Why were you here? Why were you near military zones? Who sent you?" Daniel tried to explain. "A college project. Old maps. Timeline notes. Nothing dangerous." But the guard didn't believe a word. "American spy," he muttered. "Your country sends many." Daniel shook his head. "No, please. I swear." The guard slammed his fist on the table. Daniel flinched, so hard he nearly fell from a chair. The guard leaned closer. "You tell truth, or we make you tell." At that moment, the door cracked open. Another guard whispered something urgently. The first guard stiffened. He grabbed Daniel's arm and yanked him to his feet. Back to cell. Now, Daniel didn't know why the interrogation stopped. But whatever interruption saved him, it wouldn't last. Tadmor had a way of finishing what it started. Daniel was shoved into the hallway again, but instead of turning toward the cell block, the guards pushed him down a different corridor, a deeper one. A hallway prisoners whispered about, but never saw. One called it the throat of the beast. The air grew hotter. The lights flickered. Somewhere ahead, Daniel heard chains rattling, sharp metallic echoes, and a low groaning sound that didn't sound human. The guard behind him shoved him forward. "Move." Daniel's heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear anything else. When they turned the corner, he saw it. A massive underground chamber, lit by harsh lamps. Iron hooks hung from the ceiling. Wooden crates lined the walls. Buckets, ropes, tools he didn't recognize. Prisoners were strapped to posts, barely conscious. Guards moved between them with cold efficiency, writing things down like detectives collecting evidence at a crime scene. One guard looked up at Daniel with a thin smile. "New one." Daniel froze. His feet wouldn't move. His mind screamed to run, but his body felt stuck to the floor. "Bring him," another guard said. "The commander wants fresh prisoners for the next phase." The next phase. Those words echoed in Daniel's skull. And then the guard pointed to the far corner of the chamber, where a large metal door stood open. Inside, Daniel saw rows of weapons, and soldiers gathering, preparing. One guard whispered, almost excited, Tonight they restart what happened this morning. Daniel stared, horrified. Another massacre was coming, and this time he was trapped at the center of it. The soldiers tightened their formation around the metal door, their boots scraping against the concrete floor. Daniel's breath shook as he stared into the room filled with weapons. Rifles, batons, chains. The guards whispered like they were preparing for a mission, not a punishment. One of them checked a list, like detectives reviewing case files before a dangerous raid in places like Phoenix or Detroit. Another said, "Commander wants no survivors this round." Daniel felt the words slam into him. No survivors. He looked around the underground chamber. Prisoners slumped against posts. Some whispered prayers. Others sat in silence, eyes empty, like their spirits had faded long ago. For a moment, the room became calm again, too calm. A slow, cold quiet that felt like the world holding its breath. A guard walked past Daniel, carrying a lantern. The soft orange glow brushed over the metal hooks, over the chained prisoners, over Daniel's shaking hands. "Why are you doing this?" he whispered before he realized he'd spoken out loud. The guard paused. He didn't look cruel, just tired. "Because orders," he said simply. And in Tadmor, nobody questions orders. Then he walked away. The silence stretched on. Daniel looked up at the cracked ceiling, his thoughts drifting far from Syria to home. He pictured the snowy streets of Denver, his dad fixing things in the garage, his sister Emily on her laptop in her New York apartment. He imagined detectives in Washington, D.C., pulling missing person reports, trying to track down clues that made no sense. No one back home could imagine what Tadmor was. No one could guess what was happening underground. The door slammed. Everyone jumped. The commander entered. His steps were smooth, practiced. His uniform was spotless, unlike the dusty, sweat-soaked guards. When he spoke, his voice was low but sharp. "At dawn, we clear the blocks." Every prisoner connected to the rebellion dies. Daniel felt his chest tighten. The rebellion? They thought he was part of that? A guard raised a hand. "Commander, the American? What about him?" The commander stepped closer. Daniel felt his breath on his face. Cold. Controlled. "Keep him alive for now," the commander said. "Foreign prisoners are useful. They create questions. Questions slow investigations. Questions confuse governments." Daniel swallowed hard. The commander leaned in slightly. "But if he becomes a problem, remove him before anyone notices." The soldiers nodded. Calm again. Almost peaceful. Then chaos erupted. A loud explosion rocked the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling. The lights flickered wildly. Guards stumbled, shouting in panic. Another explosion thundered through the halls. The floor trembled. Prisoners yelled in fear. Somewhere above them, metal screeched and walls cracked. "What is that?" a soldier screamed. Another guard ran in, breathless. "Commander. Attackers. Fighters from the desert. They've breached the outer gate." The commander's calm shattered. "Arm the men. Now." The chamber filled with chaos, boots pounding, weapons lifted, shouts echoing. Daniel ducked behind a crate as guards rushed past him. Smoke drifted through the cracks in the walls. Somewhere far above, gunfire rattled. More explosions followed. Prisoners pushed against their chains in desperate panic. The guards sprinted toward the stairs, leaving only a few behind. Daniel's heart pounded. This was his only chance. One prisoner, the old engineer from Boston, whispered, "The keys on the wall." Daniel spotted them, dangling near a guard station, swinging from the shaking of the room. He glanced around. Only one guard remained, crouched near the metal door, trying to radio for help. Smoke thickened. Another blast rocked the prison. The guard coughed, covering his face. Daniel moved. Fast. Quiet. His fingers closed around the keys. His hands shook so hard he nearly dropped them. He raced back to the Boston man, unlocked his chains, then moved to the others. Panic made the keys slip, but he kept going. "Run," the man whispered. "Before they come back." Daniel hesitated. "What about everyone else?" "You can't save all," the man said. "But you can save you, and you can tell the world." A final explosion ripped open part of the chamber wall. throwing dust and debris everywhere. Guards screamed in the distance. The ground cracked beneath them. The Boston man grabbed Daniel's arm. "Go." Daniel sprinted through the hole, stumbling into a long corridor filled with smoke. He ran past broken pipes, fallen stones, and flickering lights. The prison shook around him like it was crumbling. He could hear shouting on the upper floors, gunfire, chaos spreading like wildfire. Tadmor was falling. He burst into the open desert, choking on dust, but feeling the cold night air for the first time in months. Flames rose behind him as parts of the prison burned. Gunshots echoed across the sand. Daniel didn't stop running. Not until the sun rose. Not until Tadmor Prison, once the most brutal torture prison in history, was reduced to broken walls and smoke. Years later, when investigators in the U.S. pulled his case file, Daniel told them everything. Every hallway, every scream, every moment of terror. His report became part of the record, part of the truth the world could no longer hide. Tadmor was gone, but the memories were not. And some nights, Daniel still woke up hearing the echo of that first scream, the one that started it all, and the reminder that some places are built not to hold people, but to break them.